All right. I do want to thank the audience, those of you that are going to be voting down at District Caucus and State Convention Friday and Saturday. I want to thank you guys for being able to show up for this. I'm also thankful that the candidates were able to make an agreement to attend such a thing. I think it's important that we get communication like this across the district. So Brian, Jesse, and Tom, thank you for showing up. I would like to let you guys give yourself a minute introduction if you could.
Well, hello everybody. I'm Tom Stillings. I think a lot of people are probably familiar with me. I've been a vice chair for the past couple of years and worked hard and diligently for the district. And we've taken the district a long way under Jeff Lamb's leadership, and hopefully I can pick up where he left off and continue improvement. You know, we need to improve our communications and our fundraising. And basically, it's all got to be about getting more people in the voting booth, flipping levers and filling in ovals for our candidates, in short, winning elections. That's what it's about. I consider myself to be a very competent person. I managed to raise a lot of money for the district. You know, anybody that's riding the bus into the convention this time or the last time, I raised the money for that. I handled the Supreme Court billboard project on I-75 and US 131 up here in northern Michigan, and I'm a very conservative individual, and my leanings definitely go that way. Unfortunately, in some respects, the job doesn't always allow you to be what you want to be. I'm committed to continuing in the vein of Jeff Lamb and being fair and even-handed with all candidates. I believe that true conservatives who understand and can articulate conservative values have an advantage, and if they can do that, they can win people over to our side, and that's how you win elections with conservative candidates. I'm done. Go ahead.
Jesse, you want to go next?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jesse Osmer. I'm from Alpena County. Got involved with the party in early 2008. Started out as a volunteer. That summer I became a county coordinator for a congressional race when Tom Caskerson was running. Unfortunately, 2008 didn't end the way we'd like it to have. Shortly thereafter, I think about 7 months after getting involved with the party, I was elected as chair. Under my leadership, we were able to increase funds, increase membership. We secured a headquarters we kept open for 2 years. I founded the Teenage Republican Party. I founded the Alpena Tea Party. It was in early April of 2010 I met Dr. Benishek, volunteered for his campaign, became his communications director, served as a field director, political director. One of the reasons I'm running is because I believe that the chair has to be able to interact with each county and help each party prepare for what's going to be a very, very rough cycle. With the heir apparent of Michigan Democratic Party, Lon Johnson, his wife, who's part of the Obama machine, now living in Kalkaska County, we need somebody who can organize or help organize the county parties and almost sit down and strategically come up with a campaign plan. I've worked, again, numerous areas of campaigns. I look forward to bringing that to each county, tailoring their plan with them, making sure they have the tools and supplies necessary in order to defeat the Democrats. And that's about it.
I'm Brian Sommerfield. I'm in Petoskey, Michigan. First Congressional District is what we're talking about tonight, and I am a radio host of a conservative radio show, Your Defending Fathers. I got my start through the grassroots and through the Petoskey Tea Party. I'm involved in the local Republican Party, have been for a few years. I'm now on the executive committee and the secretary. I'm hoping that that my accounting background and communication skills, as well as being involved in a lot of different areas as far as different Republican groups, that it will help me in this role in the 1st Congressional District.
We have some questions that were presented by the Michigan's 1st District Liberty Coalition. Justin Carlson was in charge of that, so each candidate will get a minute to answer each question, and we'll rotate in turns who goes first. First question is, what is your definition of a good candidate for the district chair position? Tom?
A good candidate for the district chair position is one who understands what the problems are and has some idea of what some possible solutions are, but is still willing to listen to other people's ideas as well. It can never be a one-man band, you know. You have to remember that the ultimate objective is getting people into the voting booth voting for our candidates so that we can succeed. The greatest beliefs and principles in the world do us no good if we don't have people in elective office enunciating them and putting them into action. So, to me, the person that can do that, the person that can handle the logistics, the person who can organize, and the person who can bring the disparate wings of this party together to work in unison is the ideal candidate, and I think that I'm the person that's able to do that.
All right. Jesse.
Yep. My definition of a good district chair would probably be defined in the district bylaws under what the district chair must perform. I would intend to represent the district party by making sure that each county is getting the resources and tools they need to be successful, helping our candidates who make it through the primary achieve victory in November. Of course, being a communicator between the district, the state party, and when I say district, I mean all 32 counties, which is massive. It's something I've been doing for almost 5 years now. It's something I plan on continuing to do, reaching across and working with people from each faction, each county, and across the age groups.
All right, Brian.
I think the ideal candidate needs to grow the party. You got to realize that every county is at a different level. You've got some counties that have got it together. Let's call them an A county. And you've got other counties that are in different levels, not very organized, some no presence at all. And I think what's got to happen is you've got to identify each of those and then try to bring them along. And I think the only way that you're going to do that is to be able to utilize resources, things that have been well done in some counties, and try to model those. Take maybe like a women's program like in Emmett County and try to model those in other counties and literally bring counties along and take them where they're at and try to develop them. And I think the best way to do that is to pair them up with counties that already have good things going on. And again, Jesse talked about it's a vast county, 32 counties it is, and the only way we're really going to be able to do that is by shrinking the party, is by utilizing as much technology as we can. And I think being able to be technology savvy as well as being able to communicate is going to be the only way we're going to be able to do that.
All right, next question. What issues do you see as most important or threatening to our liberty and founding principles? How, as chair, do you plan to deal with these issues? Jesse.
Yeah, I think that the most important thing to defending our liberty would be simply abiding by the rules that we set for ourselves and expecting our elected officials to abide by the rules we've set for them, which are enshrined in the Constitution. And likewise, what endangers our liberty is when those rules aren't followed via the rules we've set for ourselves or for our elected officials.
All right, Brian?
I think the biggest issue that threatens our liberties more than anything else is lack of education. So many times people are looking more at a letter behind somebody's name than really looking at what they're really doing to either understand our liberties or preserve our liberties. And too often we have candidates that get out on the campaign trail that say one thing and go to either Lansing or to Washington and do just the opposite. And we need to be able to educate people, and I'm talking all the way down to the precinct level, so that our precinct delegates can go out and be preaching about what's constitutional, why certain votes were right, why certain votes were wrong. And I think it's a lack of education all the way down to the precinct delegate level, and in keeping politicians accountable. We need to make sure that we're diligent in preserving our Constitution and making sure that our liberties are upheld.
All right. Tom?
I definitely agree that the encroachment of government at all levels on our liberty is the biggest problem that we have. And all too often, we have people coming out through our education system that don't even understand what liberty is about, don't understand how many people have died, and don't understand what the world would be like if there wasn't an America with a liberty-based life, our government and both government and private life. So that's the biggest thing, and what we need to do is to make sure that we put forth candidates with integrity, people that understand and can articulate conservative values. And if we can't do that, then we're pretty much lost. So we have to start from the ground up, and that's the way it has to go. It can't come from the top down. We have to start from the ground up, and we have to build our party at every level with people who will do what they say and not change their mind. I agree with both what the other guys have said. That's the most important thing we have to do.
All right, next question. What is your plan to have 100% of the ballot positions in Michigan filled with conservative candidates? Brian, would you like to go first?
I would say not only all of our ballot positions, but I want to go all the way down to dog catcher, if that's possible in some areas. You know, we are losing it in our towns and in our counties. Our county commissioners are just one level below what our state representatives are, and most of the people can't even name who their county commissioners are. We need to put a spotlight on those, and I think the way to do that is to educate people to what's going on and get them involved in the system. And I'll give you an example. I just launched today a website called Patriot Voice News, and it is a Breitbarting of America where you can have individuals from each town get involved in one little aspect of their area, whether it's covering an event that has to do with a school board, a city council meeting, a county committee meeting. Find somebody. Let's get our precinct delegates involved where they're educated now as far as what's going on at each of these areas. Before you know it, once they start covering these, they're going to say, this isn't that intimidating. I'm going to run for that board seat, or I'm going to get involved in that area. And if we can get just people to spend a couple hours a month, we can really start turning around our towns, our villages, our counties, and all the way up to the state level. And again, I think it goes back. This has to be a bottom-up approach, and whoever gets elected out of this is going to have to make sure that we start at the precinct delegate level and work up.
Tom?
Well, you know, I guess I have a little problem with this question in that it's not the role of the district chair or the district party, for that matter, to select candidates. You know, our role, as long as there's opposition in a race, is to make sure that each candidate is treated fairly. You say, how does that help conservatism? Well, I guess you have to believe, as I do, that conservatism will stand on its own. That if you present it properly, as I said earlier, if you articulate it, if you fully understand it, if you can educate other people and make them understand why conservative solutions are the best solutions, then the cream rises to the top and will win. And the conservative candidates will rise to the top and will get elected. Our job is to educate people on a personal level. Every one of us has people that we can talk to, that we can bring to our side, that we can make the good argument with, if we educate ourselves first. But it's not the job of the district chair to pick and choose, and it's not the job of the district chair to give one candidate an advantage over another. That's for the voters to do. Sorry, folks, I'm sure some people are disappointed with that, but that's the way it's supposed to be.
All right. Jesse, what would your plan be? 100% ballot positions in Michigan.
It's a little bit in the middle, actually. You know, I agree with Tom. It's not really the district chair's job to go out and find candidates. It is the county party's job. However, how the district chair can assist with this is by going into each county. And again, something I would plan to do is bringing my experience with campaigns to each county party and helping them, you know, organize a little bit better so that they're prepared. Really, what I would do is sit down, and very few counties have these. There used to be in each county, there would be a group of people appointed by the executive committee whose only job was to go out and hunt for candidates to make sure these positions were filled, to encourage them. A lot of people would probably be more than happy to run for office. They don't know where to start. It's up to us to go down and almost farm, you know, at a county level and find these candidates or find these people who have these talents that would fit, you know, well and who could carry our message to that office. So as far as helping fill those positions myself, you know, it almost have to be a second-hand role through enabling the counties and helping them have the tools necessary to find these individuals and get them prepared for a race.
All right, next question. Do you support ending taxpayer-funded primaries? Please explain your reasoning. Tom.
I don't support ending taxpayer-funded primaries. I think that we need to make ours a truly closed primary. I think that through some kind of mechanism like closing registration some appropriate amount of time before the primary, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, I mean, I'm open to argument on that. But I think the primary is the only system that preserves the grassroots influence. It's the only position, it's the only mechanism that gives the individuals the right to have a say in the primary. You know, if you have a caucus, you can find Michael Moore sitting next to you at a caucus claiming to be a Republican. If you have a convention, it takes the vote away from the individual. You know, you go back to the 14th Amendment, one man, one vote. Well, I think that every person should have a vote. I also think that the state should set aside one particular day and have all primaries on that day. I didn't grow up in Michigan. I grew up in Massachusetts, and they had primary day. And all the parties presented their, you went in, you got a Republican ballot, or you got a Libertarian, or whatever you were, you got that ballot, and everybody had their primary the same day, and that's what it was. And if you didn't do it, well, too late. We're not going to do another one. So I think to preserve the individual influence over the choice of candidates, the primary is the best way, and it's worth the money.
All right, Jesse?
Yeah, actually, I would definitely support ending a taxpayer-funded primary. It wasn't until just recently, actually, that I started looking into this. A friend of mine shared with me a little fact. I'm not sure if all of you know this, but the Michigan taxpayers were taxed $10 million to fund the nominating process of 2 major political parties last year alone. This is a quote, by the way. Less than 1/4 of Michigan residents participated. As fiscal conservatives, that's outrageous. I would be open to another system, such as maybe a closed caucus or a party-run convention. The one thing that bothers me, though, and through the plans I've looked at, none of them take into consideration how we're going to incorporate our troops into this process. My brothers, Marines, served 2 tours of Marja. You know, they're already not really given the opportunity that they should be given on the level they should be given. It's difficult. We need to definitely look at the system. It can be tweaked. I definitely do believe what we have right now just isn't. It's not working. So I would definitely be for looking into another system.
All right, Brian.
All for ending them. I'm definitely for a closed caucus, and I'm for a closed caucus, and I think that needs to be made up of duly elected precinct delegates. And the reason I am is it is the Republican Party. The Republicans should put forth the candidate that they want to have on their ballot on November and Election Day. And I think that too many times Democrats have crossed over and helped influence our elections. And I think we already have a system in place where we've got informed people at the precinct delegate level. They should be able to go there and say who they want to have represent them at in the elections. And I think it would save taxpayers a lot of money, and we would have the best Republican representing us in November, not whoever was selected from a vast pool of whoever got the crossover vote.
All right. What action, if any, would you take as chair to help correct the unjust decision by the Rules Committee at the 2012 Republican National Convention that blinds delegates to the state's popular vote winner? Jesse.
Yep. As chair, I guess the only action I would really be able to take, and again, the district chair really doesn't have a lot to do with this type of stuff. However, one thing we can do, one thing I hope each of you do, is we can encourage our national committee men and committee women to bring this issue to the fore in the national, the RNC. They do have the power to do that. So I guess I would contact or write a letter to Mr. Ageman and Mrs. Land and let them know my thoughts on it. And again, I would encourage each of you to do the same. They represent each of us in the party.
All right. Brian.
Well, as a delegate to the National Convention and somebody that was on the floor witnessing exactly what took place down there, I'm still upset about what happened. And as soon as it happened, I was in the lobby with with Dave Agema, our national committee man, talking about what the problems were. Dave said, shoot me an email with the problems. I'll make sure I get on it right away. And I think in April, between him and Terry Lynn Land, I really believe that that's going to be taken care of. I think part of the problem is when you take a look, we've had a problem with a top-down approach in the Republican Party as opposed to from the grassroots up or from the people up. And I think that's caused a lot of the problems, and I think it's full-blown and illustrated here in what happened at the National Convention.
All right, Tom, what action would you...
It's true. It's true that as a district chair, we don't have that much input. But, you know, as a district chair, you sit on the state executive committee, and we can exert our influence that way. I agree somewhat with what Brian has said. I think this is already the process of going to be taken care of. But more importantly, I think what we have to do is to encourage the legislature to change the laws of the state of Michigan so that we allocate our electoral college votes by congressional district, much along the lines of the way Maine and Nebraska do. That way the Southeast Michigan tail doesn't get to wag the state of Michigan dog. And, you know, that's a much more desirable way to do business. And quite honestly, at that point, I would be in favor of binding the elector to the outcome of the vote in the district. So I guess that's a little different take than everybody else has, but each congressional district has an electoral vote, and the people of the district should speak, and the elector should cast his vote in that fashion, and if he can't do it, he should step down and let someone else who can do it do that, because we're truly supposed to represent the will of our constituents. Go ahead, I'm done.
All right. Oops, lost my spot here. Okay. Do you support creating a party platform for the first district? And if so, should we use this platform to hold future candidates accountable? Brian.
First district platform, I would say no. We already have one at the state and at the national level. Why create more work at a level at the local level? I think if we are getting good conservative candidates, and conservative I mean those people that already adhere to the party platform, this wouldn't even be an issue. But I think so many times you've got people in districts where, like Emmett County is a very conservative district. It runs about 60% Republican. You will have people that will run as Republicans just to get elected. Tom's area is very strong Republican. You're going to have people that run as Republicans to get elected. Jesse's area has trended Democrat for a long time. They've got just the opposite problem there. And I think it goes back to a couple questions. If we are vetting our candidates, especially our sheriff's candidates and our candidates that deal with the prosecutor's office, that's the scariest ones of all. And I think we've done a very poor job of doing that in the past. And in light of a lot of this legislation that's come along that has been very anti-liberty, it has a lot of people uneasy. I think that as not only a chair, but I think we need to make sure that we help our county chairs at each area recognize that, so that's done across the board. So I don't think we need to do anything new. I just think we need to adhere to what's already on the books.
All right, Tom.
You're not going to like this, but I like what Brian just said. It's true. It is true. We agree. He said it well, and it's exactly right.
All right, would you like to add anything to that? You have plenty of time.
No, he did a good job, and when someone does a good job, I'm the first one to stand up and say it.
All right then, Jesse.
Yeah, and I think we're all across the board on this one. I agree. We don't need to write a new platform. We already have platforms at both the state and the national level. I'm not for doing things for in redundancy for the sake of slapping the title First District on it. I think if there are things we want to maybe address, we can do that bottom up and take it to our national committee man or committee woman or to our state committee people. And as far as holding future candidates accountable, that's what elections are for. That's what we have to do as constituents, as citizens. So I think we should check, see if they're following the platform, and then go from there.
Okay. Do you support Governor Snyder's plan and acceptance of federal funds for a state-run health insurance partnership? Jesse.
Yep. I apologize, I haven't really studied the issue a great deal. I believe, if I remember correctly, what he was proposing passed last week. I'm not positive, though. I just got these answers last night, and I would have brushed up. I'm sorry. However, if what the question really is am I against government overreach in this aspect? The answer is yes.
All right. Tom.
No, not really. I think it's a tactical mistake, and I think it's a constitutional mistake. I think it puts us in line with supporting what I believe is the unconstitutional power grab of the Obama health care plan. And, I keep thinking of Lucy with the football. We're going to pay for it, we're going to pay for it. We're in a sequestration and all kinds of financial shenanigans at the federal level, and promises are wonderful things, but they're the easiest things to break. And, they might even pay what they claim they're going to pay for the first year, but there's no guarantee that they're going to continue to pay it. And I think we should just sit back and wait and see how it develops. If it looks like all that good a deal and such, there's always time to look at it again later. There's no reason to jump into it now. And I guess I fall in the camp with the Mackinac Center that says, no, not at this time, and let's wait and see if we can I still have hope that we can make Obamacare go away. I think it's going to collapse under its own weight, and I don't want us to be part of it and to be roped into something that's going to cost us many millions of dollars or billions of dollars, as the case may be, in years to come.
All right. Brian.
Let me be very succinct and to the point on this. Not just no, but since I don't swear, heck no. This is an abomination that has been thrown down our throat. We've got a governor who is not part of our party, and it shows every time he tries to rear his head on issues like this. As a party, we are so against Obamacare. As a state, we are so against Obamacare in the fact that we've got elected officials that don't understand the Constitution. We've got elected officials that don't understand what powers they have under the 9th and 10th Amendment that could nullify this. We could make this state so immune from this. And Tom brought up a part of this that's the right answer, and that is that this is an unfunded mandate, that they are throwing some candy out there to get the little kids to the van to bring them in. And then it is not going to be around in 3 years. The governor has even said, you know what, we're going to take some of this money and put it in a rainy day fund. And so that way when the money runs out in 3 years, we can dip back into it, because this is a plan that is going to cost us $90 million a year. And there's no federal funds to put it in place. Right now there's 24 states that are saying, no, we're not going to do this. You cannot force us to do this. And when I hear elected officials that say, well, it's the law of the land because the Supreme Court said it's constitutional, means that we've got elected officials that do not understand the Constitution. We need to be able to stand firm. We need to be able to educate people, educate our elected officials, so that they can stand up against a governor that has nothing but talking points brought down from the federal government. I'm sorry, I could talk on this all hour long, and it's something that got me off the couch was Obama and Obamacare, and we can fight this, we can win. We've already won 2 battles on this. We're going to fight this all the way down till Obamacare not only is not the law of the land, but it can be swept out with the trash, just like the current administration in the White House.
Okay, next question.
I'm sorry, was I clear enough on that? The answer was no.
You were. How can we address the Republican Party's demographics problem and attract more young people and minorities to the party here in Michigan? Tom.
We have to increase our presence, and we're doing a better job of it every year at the college level with the TARs and the college Republicans and such. That's where the key is. We've got a lot of good people coming up, and it's something that I concentrated on a couple of years ago. I put together the roundup in Traverse City that was very successful. We managed to put together enough money to bring oh boy, I think it was close to 40 young people down to the to the roundup and have them participate. We even paid for their gas in some places, some cases for the ones coming down from the UP. If we can get the young people, young conservative people involved, and they're the ones who tend to be more articulate. They're the ones who really do understand conservatism the way some of us do, and I think that's the key to the future. I don't know that we're going to make huge inroads into Detroit and that area in the near future. I really don't have a solution for that. I do know that freedom to work has gone a long way, or will go a long way toward decreasing the amount of money that's available for the unions to support their demagoguery in this respect. And I think that the conservatives in the black community will eventually rise to the top and will start to make inroads there too. But for right now, I see the concentration being on the youth in our institutions of higher learning, and I see great hopes for those prospects.
Jesse? How can we...
Yeah, I got it. Thanks, Doug.
Right.
So, yeah, again, you know, the question is, in Michigan as a whole, my job, again, or what my job would be, is not to address these issues on a state level. It's to address them on a district level. Last I checked, when Dan was running and I had the demographics, I think we're at like 92 or 91%, you know, Caucasian, and I think like a 4% other. You know, with that being said, I can't do much to increase the diversity in our parties. That's something, again, that would be at a county level. However, with youth, you know, I mean, I'm happy to have the endorsement of the NMU and LSSU College Republicans, as well as people like Geraldine Berg, who's the oldest serving chairwoman in the state of Michigan. You know, I think I can bridge that gap. I'm at that nice age where I can go back and forth. I've had experience setting up teenage Republican parties, so I have a good rapport with the National Teenage Republicans as we've set up ours here in Alpena, and I would just work with them in order to give them the tools. I just helped Chairman Cox down in Kalkaska County actually earlier this year in obtaining a packet to get his up and running. You know, we have to reach out to young people. We have to let them know there's a place for them in the party. And so far, every party I've ever been to, people have been great at giving young people an opportunity to stand up and let their voices be heard and let them know that they're valued there. So I think as long as we keep that tradition up, it should go up. So a lot of people don't know where to start. A lot of people don't know where to start. That's where I'd be happy to help out.
Well, first of all, I don't want Jesse to use his age against us on this question. But he's absolutely right on the demographics up here. You know, as far as a first congressional chair trying to worry about what's going on with the Latino community or the black community, but up here it's going to be the college campuses, and I think that one of the problems I think in the last election with the way that Mitt Romney ran his campaign, I felt he really turned off a lot of the young people, because the young people are concerned about liberty. They're concerned with what they see, that they see a country that is in rough shape, and they see their liberties going away. And a lot of Ron Paul supporters in Liberty Group really wanted to get behind and try to make a change, and they were just turned off. And I think that we need to get that group turned on to getting back into the party and give them a seat at the table and give them everything they need to run with it. We had 3 district chairs that I've heard from that had plans, one to get into the inner cities, one to hit the Latino crowd, and one to hit the college campuses, that they didn't get the support or the resources they needed in the last election. I think that's unacceptable. And I think as a district chair, hopefully they'll be able to give them a little bit more credibility, or knock on the door of the party chair and say, look, here's where there is a shortfall. We need resources. We need to get this program implemented, as opposed to you know, trying to run a one-man show. It needs to be a group. There needs to be a lot of voices that can make one loud voice.
All right. Thank you to Michigan's First District Liberty Coalition for presenting those questions for us. Next up, try and throw in some topics for you guys to discuss among yourselves, if you guys don't mind, just an open thing. One topic that is of concern throughout some of us here in the 1st District, as well across the state, is delegate, if everyone is familiar. Who would like to take up this, or start up this discussion?
Well, I think if you want to ask my opinion of it, I think that it was a something that not only hurt the Republican Party, but I think it also disenfranchised a lot of good Republicans that felt that if we can't even be honest in our own party, then we can't stand on principles, then why do I want to be involved in it? We had 13 of 15 counties of UP voters that voted for Rick Santorum. If you want to talk about a district that was disenfranchised, it was up here in northern Michigan. And, I don't know what Jeff Lamb could have done different, but I know what I would have tried to done different. I would have been driving down and sitting on some people's doorsteps wanting to know the answers to why. Because, what happened I feel was wrong, and ultimately I think that that's what cost Saul Anustis his chair at the national level, and I honestly feel my gut feeling is that it's going to cost another person this next weekend their job. And I think those types of things have consequences, and I think we've seen the results of that. I think that's where the people are at.
I agree with Brian in regards to the fact that the delegate scandal, what went down was absolutely wrong. I supported Ron Paul in the primary in 2008. I know this next thing I'm going to say isn't going to be very popular. I supported Mitt Romney in the primary this time around. So it wasn't only the Ron Paul people who basically got disenfranchised from that. There were a lot of good people who were supporting other candidates, and it made those of us who are good people and we were working for our candidates to try getting them in, make us look bad as well. We're being lumped in, and I think that's horrible. So anytime anything like that happens, it hurts the party as a whole. It divides us, it turns us against each other, and I think the 1st District, because of the size, we're already diverse enough. So I'm against it just on the sheer fact that it hurts the unity within the party.
Tom, what do you...
My turn?
Yep, yeah, go ahead, jump in.
Okay, well, I thought it was ham-handed, it was wrong-headed, and I just likely don't understand the how and the why of it. Hey, I was a Rick Perry, Newt Gingrich kind of guy, and I certainly wasn't happy with it, and hopefully, please God, let everybody have learned a lesson from everybody's reaction to this, that you just don't do that. And now let's let it drop and make sure that it never happens again, because if we can't include everybody, how can we, after we do something like that to somebody, turn around and say to them, but we expect you to show up in the ballot box, in the voting booth, to vote for our candidate? Excuse me. That's not how you grow the party. That's not how you win elections. And let's face it, we've got to get back to focusing on winning elections. These petty internal squabbles that these people reacted to, I can't see any excuse for it, and we just have to make sure that we're smart enough that we never even do anything remotely like that again. I'm done.
All right. As you all know, we obviously have a state chair race coming up. Where do each of you stand, and who do you support for state chair? Who would do the best job that you feel would be better, and why? Jesse, Tom, Brian?
As far as that goes, that's between me and the ballot box. I think both candidates have something they can contribute. They could both bring strengths to the table. And it's a lot, kind of like the three of us on this call right now. The three of us all offer something very strong. We each can bring something to the table. So I think it's up to the voters. Look at it, listen to the people, and vote for the one that you think best fits your beliefs and the direction you'd like to see the party go.
All right, Brian or Tom?
For myself, I'm supporting Todd Corser, and the reason I am is part of it is the the delegate issue that you mentioned in the last, but I think when I look at both candidates side by side, I think Todd Corser lines up with my conservative values a whole lot more than what Bobby Shostak does. I think he is a principled conservative, and I think he's a good Christian man that stands on those principles and everything I've seen so far. I liked him when he was a candidate for the education in the last election, and I think he could do very well in a leadership role for our party going forward.
Tom?
Well, I don't often agree with Jesse, but I think he's right on this one. It's what you do in the ballot box is between you and the ballot. And I'll be honest with you, I haven't made up my mind yet. I see that there's strengths and weaknesses to both, and I'm kind of agnostic on it, I think. But I don't know. I'm with Jesse, and that makes everything even. I agree with Brian once, and I agree with Jesse once.
All right. What is one thing that is concern of you or is of most concern to you guys in the first district that you would really like to touch up on?
Yeah, I think we talked about this a lot tonight, and this webinar kind of brings it to substance, and that's communication. We're vast. I've ran 2 campaigns now. One was before redistricting. We had 30 and 1/2 counties. Now we have 31 and 1/2 counties. It's tough. It is really, really tough to get people engaged, to get everybody on the same page, and to try getting people in 32 counties all on the same call. So I would like to utilize every form of communication that we possibly can, and try bringing what's already pretty much a small community, believe it or not, a little bit more, I guess, closer together, and I think a lot of it has to do with communication. We can avoid a lot of this inter-party fighting if there was more of that. So that would be my top thing I'd like to fix.
Yeah, if I might, that's all very good, and once again I do agree. But I go a little further. I want to have a designated communications person, whether it be myself or somebody else from the district, and I want each county to have a designated media communications person to talk to the local newspaper, to talk if there's a local radio station, or in some of the bigger towns a TV station, whatever. Someone that can articulate and communicate on a regular basis when they need a quote, when they want to know the position on something, that a reporter can call. Someone who has a regular official capacity to speak to reporters and to talk to editors and what have you, to get our viewpoint across. I think that we fail on this miserably so often. And, if we don't start doing a better job with our media presentation, getting ourselves out there in an articulate fashion, we're never going to get past where we are now. So communication is a big thing. Not just within our district executive committee, but from the party going out, and that we all talk on a regular basis and we all speak from the same page. So I think communications, yes, but from a slightly different perspective.
Brian?
I want to take it more of a 3-tier, and I've had parts of that in different questions throughout the throughout the night. I think as the chair, your first responsibility is to each of the county chairs, and make sure that you're in communication with them, answering questions. Make sure that maybe not quite so much as a mentor role, but making sure that they have everything they need inside their party. One of the things that I'm doing and going to be implementing as the secretary in our Emmett County is to make sure that we've got a monthly newsletter that goes out through Constant Contact. We've got the ability to get information in people's hands instantly. And I think that the second part of that is to make sure that we've got everybody at the precinct delegate level and everybody that's involved at the ground level, the grassroots level, that we can put information in their hands. And it's great that that people read newspapers and that people get influenced by different things. But we need to make sure that they're getting information that they can use when they're talking on the streets, when they're in the barbershops, when they're in the grocery store, when they're at the school, because people just don't know what's happening in our world. And a lot of times, once somebody's interest is piqued, I think they're going to get engaged. And when somebody realizes the severity of a lot of these things, they're going to want to be involved in the party. Look at how many people in 2010 got involved because they understood that something was drastically wrong with the direction of our country. I think we're going to see that swell again in 2014, and we've got to make sure that we engage people and have our people, our precinct delegates, those people involved in our local parties, have the information in their hands so they can help bring more people to our side and help us win elections.
All right. I want to try and grab the questions that are already in here right now, and then give you guys each a 2-minute closing statement. One question is from someone in the audience is, and this will be for all three of you, we want to win, but how would you draw the line on what you would give up to win? Tom.
Well, number one, you don't give up truth. You don't give up conservative values. You certainly don't give up the Constitution. It's a backing down never wins a battle. And we can't back down. What we have to do is educate people, and we have to be very clear in the way that we present ourselves and we present our ideas. But the idea of the concept of saying something to please somebody or pandering is just not in my playbook. And I think that honesty is the best policy across the board. If you just tell the truth every time, you don't have to worry about thinking about, God, what did I tell this guy last time? So I guess those would be my basic criteria.
Brian?
Yeah, I would say...
Or Jesse, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I thought we were...
No, go ahead.
Sorry, no. Okay, sorry. And I would agree with Tom. I would say, though, the district chair really, our job, again, is not to determine which candidates win and lose. We saw earlier this year Justin Amash and what's being done to him, with the party at a national level, because maybe he doesn't fit a very narrow definition of a Republican. So my job isn't to sit there and judge who Republicans in each region choose to represent them. That's up to you guys. My job is to come in and help you get your candidates across the line in November. It's something I have a lot of experience doing. It's something I'll be more than happy to help do. And if they don't work out, elections come around every 2 to 4 years, so we can revisit that.
If I might, I was really addressing the general election, not primaries. Okay.
Well, I don't know if it's a matter of what to give up or anything like that. I think that I think leadership. And getting back to a couple things that I mentioned in the last answer, has to deal with principles. I think as long as our principles are where they should be, principled leadership, going all the way back to what John Maxwell talks about, what a lot of guys in that vein preach, I think that that's really what we have to do no matter what role we have, whether it's in First District Chair, whether it's a candidate for a race, or whether we're just as a precinct delegate.
All right. Next question from the audience is, as a district chair, and in detail, if you could explain, how would you help county leadership, especially if they have new leadership? How would you help them in training?
Yeah, I'll be happy to do that one. I think there's a lot of resources out there that aren't shared a great deal. We had somebody contact me just last week wanting to know more about being a precinct delegate. There are actually precinct delegate manuals out there. It was, I believe, in 2009, Troy Rowlings, who was a vice chair for the state party, wrote an extremely well-done manual. I don't know if it was ever highly distributed, but it did talk about how to start your county party from the bottom up. I would go in, I would take my experience, I'd help them supply them with bylaws. Other than that, like I said, I'd sit down and come up with a tailored plan. It depends on what the county is, what the executive committee looks like, what their plans are, what their goals are for their party. I've had a lot of experience with county parties, so it would almost be like riding a bike. It's hard to put into words how you do it. You just know how to do it.
I think it starts with building people. I look at, there's a few counties that are within a one wood of all three of us. Just south of Jesse and Alcona County, there's a lot of work that needs to be done in that county. Just north of the bridge, there's some work that has to be done there. And I think that, you invest in people, you make sure that they understand the direction of where we need to go, and then again, we don't have to reinvent the wheel on any of this. We just have to get the tools in their hands, and then guide them along and make sure that we're there to troubleshoot and help answer questions. And being available is the best way to do that.
Everybody's got some good points here, and you got to remember we got the same problem up in Keweenaw as well. And knowing where the trouble spots are is where you really have to rely on your vice chairs and on the other members of the executive committee, because these things can remain hidden if we're not too careful. But the vice chairs are kind of on the spot, and given the size of the district, especially when we've got virtually from one end to the other, we have problems. Alcona up to Keweenaw, and that's a daunting task just to take care of the geographic problems there. Our vice chairs have to be brought into play here, and then the chairman should step in, just to aid in providing the resources for the vice chairs to coordinate with the local people and get things started. Yes, they need bylaws, but you've got to have some people first. We've got a problem in Alcona County. The reason that there's only a handful of people, 2 or 3 that are even interested in having a party. I think Mike Maturin is going to go a long way to revitalizing it down there, and I know I've been working with Mary Sears to try to find somebody up in Keweenaw to get something going there, because there virtually is no Republican Party in that county at this point in time. Mackinac isn't quite as bad as the rest, but it certainly has its share of problems. We have to recognize it. We have to go to work, and it's getting into the local population, finding and motivating people, and then sending in the vice chairs or whoever the closest executive board people are to just work with them and encourage them. And we can take care of a lot of the details later if we can just get the interest going, and that's the basis that we have to start with.
All right. How do you guys feel about primary challengers to incumbents?
You know what? If they've got all that much to say, I mean, they're entitled to come and say it. It's a tough way to go. I don't recommend it, but hey, you should never say no to a potential candidate. Let them make their point, let them have their say, and let the people decide. That's why we're supposed to be neutral.
I don't have a problem with it either. I think it makes our candidates better candidates, and I think it's what separates us from the Democrat Party. The Democrats will hardly ever have a primary, and how much better of a candidate do you think Jack Hogendijk made Fred Upton? And I think that bringing issues to the table and having people go on the record. Let's face it. Sometimes we have people that are elected in conservative areas, and you wonder how come the Republicans couldn't have done any better than that. Look down in Grand Rapids with the incident with Chase Bolger in the Democrat representative that changed to Republican at the last minute. Those are things that I think are worse for a party than having true people that want to run and make our party better. I think we should encourage it. If they want to run, put the money up and run.
And yeah, I would agree with both Tom and Brian on this one. If you'd sit down, you'd let them know what all it entails and make sure they have the same tools available that you're offering anybody else.
All right. Could you be able to stay neutral in that type of open primary?
I think
it's imperative. You have to. The one thing we talk about the things like delegate and all this stuff where somebody stepped in and tried to impose their will on the process, and that's the worst thing in the world. You know, if you can point to one thing that Jeff Lamb did well, and he did a lot of things well, I'm not saying that he didn't, but the one thing that really impressed me was his ability to stay above the fray, to stay completely neutral, and to make sure that everybody knew it. That's so important. And, you know, if whoever winds up succeeding, if they can't do that, then they shall have failed. You have to. I'm done.
Right. And, yeah, I would agree. I think, you know, the district chair, again, the district chair is more about preparing and organizing the county parties than it is about helping or not helping candidates. But, you know, you just have to know that the person you're voting for, you trust that they can you know, put that forth, put fairness forth, and that they'll wear the hat they're supposed to wear.
Ryan?
And I think, yeah, I agree, and I kind of answered the same time Tom did. I think that you know, you need to make sure that if you're in leadership, you stay out of the way and make sure that, you know, it's a fair race. I think one thing I'm really upset with in the last presidential election, that everybody in state leadership, from Bill Schuette to the governor to everybody else, was endorsing Mitt Romney. It's like our whole Republican leadership team was Team Romney before we even had a primary in the state of Michigan. And, you know, I think that as elected officials, they needed to just step back and let the, again, it's that top down as opposed to the grassroots up that it seems like we're constantly fighting. And I think, you know, definitely our chairs need to make sure that they remain neutral and make sure both candidates have an equal opportunity to run for that race.
All right, one more question before I let you guys do your 2-minute closing statements. What would be your first steps in getting a college Republicans group up and running in our community colleges?
Yeah, I can answer that. We tried here in Alpena actually to do that unsuccessfully that year, but then again, I think that was around the same time we were doing the Teenage Republican Party, and our county party was growing rapidly, and we were doing our you know, Tea Party. Our biggest issue with community college is the fact that you do not have such a close-knit community. It's much easier to do it at a place like NMU, where you have a lot more people going there. You know, things are much more communal there, so it's easier to get people all on board. But, you know, I think if people are interested in that, you know, there is a National Federation of College Republicans that we could utilize. I'm sure they would be willing to assist. I do think it's important that the county parties play a very active role in that. You would go in, of course, communicate it to the, start out with the government professors and the poli-sci guys, and go in and speak to classes, put up flyers, pass out pamphlets, you know, put a meeting place together, and you just have to get, if you can get 4 or 5 people, you can grow it from there. We were very successful with our Teenage Republican Party when we did that. I think at the height of it we had like 30. Unfortunately, most of them were seniors, so we're constantly on a big turnover rate. I think we're down to about 5 right now, but it's growing again. So that's how I would approach it.
I'll follow up, Jesse, with that. And let's face it, the junior colleges are absolutely difficult to start from scratch at that level. And the reason why is they are petri dishes of liberalism. I think where we really need to start is we start at the high school level, and we get our high school groups started, and as those kids start filtering up into, you know, like Alpena High School will filter into Alpena Community College. A number of kids will take that route. Petoskey High School will filter into the North Central Michigan College. Down into Traverse City High Schools will filter up there. And I think we need to take, you know, our Bradley Dean, a friend of ours, he's on a radio show. You know, we need to take his approach where you go in and you're literally preaching the truth in the high schools and get those kids enthused and motivated, and they're going to follow that enthusiasm up to the next level.
And yeah, and just to follow up real quick on that, you're right, Brian, because we have had that happen where a lot of our Teenage Republicans say, contact me and say, hey, I'm active with my college Republican Party here. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of kids who go to ACC after graduation.
We're all on the same track here, you know, and the important thing is that we do have a core of young people, and, you know, even as young as Jesse is, the high school kids really don't want to hear that much from us old guys. I actually, a couple of years ago, went over to Alpena, and one of their government teachers over there asked me to come and speak to his classes, and I did. And the kids were attentive, but you know what? I've got to believe that if one of the college Republicans or somebody with a little bit more youth showed up and was more of an example that they could relate to, that a lot more progress would have been made. So utilizing what we have. We have a good basis with the teenage Republicans, with the college Republicans, and if we can just strengthen and encourage those organizations, that's our entree into that world.
All right. All right. So I guess for what's this? I guess for closing statements, Tom, you want to go first? Oh, and also, as they're doing the closing statements, I don't want anyone to leave yet. There is a poll I did put up. I'll post it here in a second. The question in the poll is, who will you be supporting for first district chair in your district caucus? Tom Stillings, Brian Sommerfield, Jesse Osmer, or undecided? Tom, Brian, Jesse, I will share the polling numbers when they come back in. So if you guys are okay with that.
Sure.
Whatever. Yeah. I mean, it's your guys' show. Anyway, my closing statement. Okay. My opening statement is pretty much my closing statement. I think a lot of people have had a chance to see who I am and what I stand for over the last couple of years. They've seen the effectiveness of what I do. I just don't talk a good game. I actually go out and do it. And I have the resources, I have the time, I have the capability, and I have the willingness to listen. I mean, not just a willingness to listen. I'm actively asking everybody that has any kind of an idea. I don't care what it is. I'll listen to them all, talk it over with our executive board, and we're gonna move forward. And I'm not going to take my whole 2 minutes. This whole thing has to be just concentrated on one very simple idea: winning elections, more people in the voting booth, voting for our people. Whatever we have to do that is honest and sincere to continue and to educate people in our conservative principles and ideals to save this nation and save, in some cases, our townships, in our state, in our counties along the way. It all rolls down into one thing, and conservative values and conservative solutions are the answer. As a county chair, you don't, as a district chair or a county chair for that matter, you don't get to have a say in who the candidates are, but you can help to educate the people along the way as an individual, and that's the role that we have to serve. So that's it, and I hope that I can earn the votes of a lot of people, and thank you very much.
Jesse?
Yep, absolutely. I have, and Tom's right, this position is about two things. It's about following the rules, holding meetings, being the communicator between the district and the state, and of course between the 32 counties. It's about attending events and all that fun stuff. However, it is, and he's right, about winning elections. When it comes to winning elections, I am the most experienced candidate. I've been a communications director. I've been a field director. I've been a political director, a county coordinator. I've served as a county chair and a vice chair and a secretary. I've organized Teenage Republican Party and Tea Parties. We need somebody who is ready to hit the ground running, and that's me. I can do that. I know I can win elections. It's what we've been doing. We were outspent 8-1 this last election. We didn't win by much, but we did win, and that's what counts. My job isn't to define the party. It's not to come out and try saying this is or isn't how we're going to do things. My job is to do two things: to help get you the tools you need, and to make sure your candidates get across the line on election day, and that's it. So I would ask for your vote, and thank you guys all for joining the call tonight. I think this is great. Doug, thank you very much for hosting this, and Brian and Tom, thank you for making it.
All right, go ahead, Brian.
I actually want to thank you, Doug, too, as well. You did a good job of hosting this tonight, and Tom and Jesse for the input. I think that it's valuable when we're able to share ideas in and talk about things, especially when we're moving our district forward. And I think the number one job that I see, it goes back to my background. I've got a degree in business administration. I'm an accountant by trade. Being able to organize, recognize problems, and implement things is what I do. And I think dealing with the public as a public accountant, constantly have to understand and read people and be able to communicate them on their level, no matter what their problem is. I think the accounting background is perfectly suited to what it takes to be a good district chair. I think that winning elections is extremely important, but winning elections with principles is more important. You know, we've all talked about the Constitution. We've all talked about our conservative credentials. I think, you know, that's something that I think we've all brought to the table already. But I think the experience, you know, being in a field like I've been in the very demanding field for 25 years, is going to make me very well suited for this position. I'd also like to thank everybody for listening in. You know, sometimes these things can get long, but I think that you know, thank them for listening in and being a part of this across the 1st Congressional District. And please vote for Brian Sommerfield on Friday. That's my closing pitch.
All right, and thanks again, Brian, Tom, and Jesse for being able to show up, and those of you in the audience who were able to, you know, get in this program and listen in. I hope that you guys have had answers or questions answered. And don't forget to vote in the poll. It should be viewing if you're paying attention to the program. Answer that before you get off. I will leave this open until the last person gets off.